Hey guys, Walt Bayless here. Just wanted to say hi and thank you again for your nice comments about my new book, Night Vision. I wanted to read you a couple more chapters. Some people asked me, and I'd be happy to do that. Oh, also, I got a couple of private messages, some questions, because they've been reading the book further ahead, and some people wanted to know if I was in fact vegan, and if so, why. The answer is yes. I am actually, my sweetheart and I have a super radical, well, it sounds radical. It's actually quite wonderful for us, way of eating. We're no oil vegans, and we fast 20 hours out of the day. So we have a 4-hour window. I guess the modern way of talking about that sort of eating plan is they call it the warrior diet now. But it's just, I think fasting's really good for you. And why am I vegan? First of all, I'm not a rabid vegan. I'm not anti anybody that eats meat. We're all victims of our fear-based, bizarre culture here. So, who knows? What other vegans are thinking. There's a lot of negative, I guess, press that gets attracted by some of these rabid, hateful type of people that are calling themselves vegan, but really it's just turned into kind of a political thing. For me, I do it for health reasons and because I love little animals. I love my pets, I love my friends, people. I grew up on a little farm at one point and had a couple of cows, actually, Cindy and Gertrude, and I loved them to pieces, So I've always just loved animals. I have eaten meat more than I'd like to in my life, especially when I was younger, but I've been pretty much vegetarian off and on. So I do it, and then I just went years ago, just decided, screw it, just get rid of all this garbage and eat clean. And it helps me because I have to live wrestle a lot. It won't make you weak. You're going to be just fine. I'm 52 years old, drug-free, 220 pounds. I lift weights, wrestle with people, and anyway, no, I've got more energy and stronger and healthier and more powerful than I've ever been. So I do it for that, and like I said, but I also have some of my best friends are hunters. One of my best friends growing up was a professional hunter. And he explained to me, shout out to Lee Fry, how selling hunting licenses, for like big game and stuff in Africa actually helped protect the elephants. So it's really bizarre how this world works. But nevertheless, the bottom line is, yes, I'm vegan. It's an oil vegan, and that's the way I eat, and I do it for those reasons. So anyway, other than love and blessings to everybody else, no matter what you eat like. But anyway, let's kick into some reading if you'd like. Chapter 5. After some discussion, Randy's parents agreed that it would be best if she and I speak alone. In my experience, kids won't tell you even half of what they know while mom and dad are listening in. So Randy and I went out into the lush backyard and took a seat at the custom picnic table that Gerald had built. The trees around us were tall and thick, giving us a decent sense of privacy and seclusion. Still, Randy kept glancing around and checking over her shoulder. "It's all right," I said. "It's just you and me." "You don't understand," said Randy. "It's not just you and me." I got a flash just then, a vision of her and Kat in the bedroom upstairs. They were up late together, laughing at something on the computer. Then all of a sudden things went bad, and I saw Randy screaming as she ran hysterically out of the room. I snapped out of the vision and stared at the girl. "You've seen this thing before," I said, putting the burned black book on the table. Randy reeled and leaned away. "I don't ever want to see that thing again," she said. "Not ever." I took it off the table and put it back in my pocket. "All right," I said. "Then talk to me. You don't have to be afraid. If you tell me what's going on, I can handle it. I deal with this stuff all the time." "Seriously? Are you sure?" "I am," I said. "Now let's start by telling me about this boy Kat was seeing." "I think it was him," said Randy. "I think that's where she got the book from in the first place." "Do you know his name? Try to remember." "I don't," said Randy. "I honestly don't know anything about him. Kat just sort of hinted at somebody she was seeing." "All right," I said. "So what happened up in the bedroom?" "What do you mean?" "With you and Kat," I said, "and the book." "You know about that?" Randy whispered. "A little," I said. "I know something scared you pretty badly." Randy nodded and looked at the ground. Everybody thought Kat was Miss Goody Two-Shoes, like she was perfect or something. They still do. That's what she wants everyone to think, especially her mother. Like she was just all into school and stuff like that. "But she was into other things," I said, "wasn't she?" Randy nodded again. "She was always talking about, like, occult stuff. I thought it was kind of cool at first. We did, like, seances or whatever, but nothing ever happened. Nothing big, anyway. We just laughed and freaked each other out, I nodded. "Go on." But then a few months ago, before she disappeared, Kat showed up with that book. Randy checked over her shoulder again and rubbed her arms like she was cold. Listen, she said in a low voice. Kat said not to talk about it or those things would come back. I felt a chill wash over me, a shadow creeping in as the young girl's mind recalled her terror. I got a glimpse of the darkness there, red eyes burning, claws scratching wildly over the floor as the smells of sulfur filled my nose again. Demons, I said suddenly, letting the word slip out. Randy went white and started to panic. It's all right, I said. I can help you here, but only if you talk to me. Randy was terribly frightened, but she nodded and continued anyway. Like I said, nothing ever happened before. If she wanted to do a seance or whatever, it was all just for fun. But then one night Kat told me to turn out the lights. So I did. And her eyes were like glowing or something. I know that sounds stupid, but it was really scary. I couldn't help it. I just screamed and ran out of the room. My parents freaked out, so I lied and said we were just playing a game. I never told anyone about that night, Kat. Kat made me promise not to. It's okay, I said again. Crazy and weird is what I do, believe me. There is nothing you can say that will freak me out. So what happened after that? Later on, said Randy, when I wasn't so scared anymore, I asked her how she did that thing with her eyes. That's when she showed me the book. Kat said that if I wanted to be able to do what she could do, like have special powers or whatever, I had to read that book. But the book was empty, I said, or at least it looked that way at first. Exactly, said Randy, blushing a little. You had to use this weird spell or something. I don't remember the words. It was in this other language. I thought it was bullshit at first, but it wasn't. The poor girl trailed off into silence, her mind disturbed by the memory of the dark magic working its way under her skin. I know, I said. Magic can make you feel pretty bizarre, right? Randy nodded. Nothing to feel bad about, I said. Not as long as you don't mess with this stuff again. Mr. Blackwell, believe me, I won't. All right then, I said. Tell me what happened after you guys said the words. Randy glanced around nervously. There was this writing all of a sudden that appeared on all the pages. I couldn't actually read it, if that makes sense, but the words got into your head anyway, like somebody was reading them for you. Out loud, in your head. The girl shuddered and rubbed her arms again. Do I really have to talk about this, Mr. Blackwell? Yes, you do, Randy, I said, and I can help with whatever is going on inside your house. But right now we need to help Kat, okay? Randy nodded and fought back some tears. Okay, she began. All of a sudden, there were like these things, freaky little, creatures, and they literally started coming out of the walls. They looked like little lizards, snakes, and spiders and stuff. I know how that sounds, Mr. Blackwell, but they were super scary. I know they are, I said, but you're doing great. Now tell me about the little creatures you saw coming out of the walls. Randy nodded, straightening her body a little with courage. They were made out of like smoke or something, she said, and fire. I thought they were going to burn our house down, so I started freaking out again, but Kat promised me that they wouldn't. But then she said I was supposed to lie down in this crazy detailed circle on the floor. She drew it by using that book. All these, like, symbols and things. I know what kind of circle you mean, I said. What happened after that? Randy frowned and looked away, holding herself again. Kat said I was supposed to lie there and let them crawl all over me and, do stuff to me. But I couldn't do it. I freaked out and left. Finally, Randy broke down and started sobbing. I scooted over and held her for a moment. It's all right, I said. It really is all right. But it isn't, said Randy. I can still hear them scratching around sometimes up in my room. They're still up there, Mr. Blackwell. I don't want them to touch me. I spend all night on the couch, and my mom thinks I'm on drugs. I can't even sleep anymore. Okay, I soothed, okay. What I need you to do now is take me upstairs to your bedroom. We're going to find out how they're getting in, and then shut the door on those little bastards, all right? Randy wiped her eyes and looked up at me curiously then. You mean you really believe me, she said. About all of it. About all of it, I said. Now come on, let's go fix this. From now on, you're going to sleep like the dead. Randy smirked. Is that like psychic humor or something? Something like that, I smiled, giving her a hug. You did good. Now let's head upstairs and do a little house cleaning. Okay, guys, that was chapter 5, I believe. All right, chapter 6. Randy thanked me for the talk we had and then showed me to her bedroom. I told her I had to do this alone, and she was only too happy to let me. I went inside and then closed the door behind me. While I had the chance, I decided to do a little digging around. I didn't find much in the way of clues as to the whereabouts of her missing stepsister, but I did find the black dot portal where the minor demons were getting in. It was behind Randy's dresser and about half an inch off the floor. Nobody would have ever noticed it, but those tiny demons would have gone on tormenting the poor girl until the family either stuck her in an institution or sold the house. I was only too happy to put that nightmare to an end. I sealed the area with a few small symbols and said some words, and then waited until I was sure the portal was dead. I had to wonder how many more portals had been opened up in that town, and what those creatures from the Shadow Realm had finally done to Cat Mosley. I visited with the Parkers a little while longer, but about an hour later, it was getting dark outside, and I was more than ready to go. No matter how much I care about people, I just can't stand being around them for very long. It's hard for most folks to comprehend, especially when their herd-like gatherings and rituals are some of the most precious things in their lives. Anyone who knew me long enough just thought I was a grumpy old hermit or something, an eccentric recluse maybe. But try to imagine everyone you've ever known as a blaring radio with crazy jumbled music spilling out. Music spewing into your head that never stopped. And always at full volume. Imagine that and you'll understand a tiny fraction of what it's like for me to be in a room with others for very long. It's the price you pay for being super sensitive. It's why artists and writers can channel their visions into stories so well, but it's also why many of the finest ones prefer solitude over celebration. At last I was waving goodbye to the Parkers as I walked across the street to my car. The family was all together, like on a holiday postcard, smiling and waving back at me. But in spite of all those happy faces, I could feel a heavy desperation emanating from Kat's second family. All of them dreading what I might eventually turn up with my search. Had Kat been abducted, murdered, worse? It was a lot for her mother and the Parkers to bear, so many terrible things still left for them to imagine. And in the end, all they could do was wait. Their pain crowded in on me like a room filling up with smoke. I actually felt that it was hard for me to breathe. The fact was that I really liked those people, and after only half a day, I could feel that this case was getting personal. I got into my car and closed the door, pausing in the blessed silence for a moment. I let my emotions about the case recede into the distance as the Parker family filed quietly back into their home. The 3 dogs they had bounced around them and smiled, oblivious to the curious human suffering up above. I turned my head away and stared through my windshield at the clear night sky. I desperately wanted to close my eyes and rest my mind for a moment, but it was growing cold outside, a dry, eerie chill seeping into the air that wouldn't let me relax. Something telling me I should go. I was about to start the car when I suddenly felt something else, a familiar presence, I thought, somebody close by. I closed my eyes and concentrated. A vision of the university flashed into my mind. No, I thought, it was the diner across the street. I opened my eyes again and peered out my window into the darkness. Steph, I said to myself, that's weird. I got out of the car and strained my eyes into the faint moonlight, trying to find whoever it was that was watching me. I stood still, reaching out with my mind. Suddenly a car started up off to my left, a small blue Honda that threw on its lights and then pulled swiftly away from the curb. Stephanie, I called out, wait up! But the driver ignored me and quickly sped away. I tried to get the car's license plate, but the only decent street lamp was about 5 houses down. It was hard to see much of anything beyond porch lights and constellations after dark in that neighborhood. The mystery car drove on, rushing down the dark road until it finally disappeared. After that, it was quiet again. I sighed and turned away, leaning over to get back into my car. That was when the first blow struck me, sharp and hard. It felt like a stick or something from behind. Luckily, I was hunched over a little and the blow glanced off my back, throwing me into the side of my vehicle. But it woke me up, and after that first hard shot, my body leapt into action. I covered up and rolled off to my right. I heard the stick go whizzing by my face and crash into the Lexus with an expensive crunch. And then another figure appeared, a silhouette that was kicking at me and swinging a big stick too. I moved in fast, ducking under the guy's arms as I got behind him. Instinctively, I stomped his leg and brought him down sharply to his knees. After that, I dropped a heavy elbow into the guy's jaw and felt it crunch. He groaned in pain, and I went to hit him again, but one of his friends started hitting me with a stick from my left. I stumbled away and held my shoulder, trying like hell to see what was going on. But it was all just shadows and madness at the moment. The attackers regrouped and then came at me again. There had to be at least 4 of them, I thought, but it was so dark that I couldn't make out much of anything. For a few moments we just fought like hell, a pile of bodies flailing desperately in the street, breathing and cursing at the exhaustion and the pain. This wasn't some ordinary mugging, I told myself. No, I could feel that these people actually wanted to kill me. It was terrifying, and I fought back with everything I had. At the time, I honestly thought I was going to die a hard death that night. I don't care how trained you are. 1 man against 4 people with sticks is suicide. But I had to try. The first thing I did was grab one of my attackers and hold him in close, use him like a shield while I backed against the car. The others were having trouble hitting me square, but I took some good shots to my shoulders and arms. The best I could hope for right then was to seriously injure 1 or 2 of them and hope the rest would lose their steam. I was pretty sure I broke the one guy's jaw already, but the others were still on me with everything they had. Suddenly, in a kind of primal desperation, I yanked my human shield back toward my teeth and bit down hard. Somewhere on the right side of his neck, I think. I bit right through his black sweatshirt and tried to kill him. I was no carnivore, but I got him pretty good. I felt blood squirt up into my mouth as the guy shrieked like a rabbit into the night. His right arm went limp and he dropped his stick. Next, I sprang up and threw a brutal front kick at one of the shadows there in front of me. I felt a crushing connection with the guy's groin as he yelped and fell like a stone into the street. I threw my human shield into another guy and kicked him hard in the back, sending the pair of them stumbling down onto the asphalt as well. And in those few lucky seconds, the tide had turned. I could hardly breathe by then, and yet had to ready myself for another round. But all of a sudden, I could see that the shadows were backing away now, helping each other up and limping off slowly into the shadows again. I wanted so badly to know who the hell these assholes were, but I was too damn tired even to think about chasing them down. I stood there panting and cringing in the darkness, trying hard to catch my breath. And as the adrenaline began to subside, the pain all over my body began to rise. My arms, my back, hell, even my legs hurt. I'd taken some decent shots pretty much everywhere. The back of my head was stinging now too, burning like hell in that icy cold air. I reached back and felt the moisture of sweat mixed with blood. A bad cut probably, maybe even a concussion. My ear was swollen and my left eye was blurry. Too blurry to see much of anything other than the empty streets and that one goddamn lamp off in the distance. It struck me then how relatively quiet that awful struggle had been. How I could have died right there on the ground in front of the Parker house and nobody would have even known about it until morning. But, thankfully, it didn't go down that way. I was alive and the bastards that tried to kill me were gone, at least for now. I hurried back into my car and locked the doors. After that, I started the engine and got the hell out of there. All right, guys, that is the end of Chapter 6. Thank you very much for listening. I really enjoyed spending some time with you. I hope you did too. If you're liking the book and you haven't got it yet, please go out and grab it. And if you love it, 5 stars does me a solid and really helps my new life. Other than that, thank you again for spending time. I'll catch you later and have an awesome day. Bye-bye.